basic reviews, some games for your pleasure. Oh, sweet pleasure.
Baasvik reviews Salt and Sanctuary. Dark Souls 3 hits next month. It's coming. We're all ready. I know I am. What the hell do I do in the meantime? There's the Silent Hill games. I guess I could play some Clock Tower 3. No. Capcom vs. SNK 2. No. I have so many Wii U games, but I hate those. Play The Witcher again, but that would take forever. Definitely not touching Minecraft. 3DS, I think I threw mine out.
Hey, Pete!
Yeah?
Did you hear there's a new Souls-like game on the PS4? It's 2D and stuff. It's a bunch of shit that you'll like. You're punished for death or whatever. It's hard, and there's like elements of other stuff in there too. It's not bad at all. I've heard people really like it.
What's it called?
It's called Salt and Sanctuary.
Praise the sun. So you boot straight into the game, and you're introduced to the classes, and they're as confusing as hell. I don't know. The one, I mean, mage makes sense, and then you got your cleric and your paladin or whatever. I don't know. So let's go with Pauper. And you get to pick a starting item. It's confusing as shit. The fuck is a grasping ring? Let's do it. Always fear that the Souls-likes are going to rely on this whole obscurity thing that we get from the Dark Souls universe a little bit too much. I mean, it's great, and it's a beautiful part of those games, but using it is very delicate and subtle. If you overdo it and you don't tell the player enough, then you kind of just are making your game artificially difficult rather than serving to kind of suit the world. So it makes me a little bit nervous to see that so early on. So we're kind of dropped on this boat, and we meet this man first, and he's like, "Hey, stranger, we got boarded. You're a pirate, man." And I like being a pirate or whatever. And a guy comes down and murders him out of the rafters. But quickly, after we fight our way through the boat, we reach this fucker. The Unspeakable Deep. It doesn't even sound like a name for a thing, but it is. I guess it's speakable, though. Well, I guess maybe its name is unspeakable. I don't know, but it murders us regardless. Oh, shit. They put that in there. See, in Demon Souls, when you get to the first boss, after running around completely confused, because it's by far the most confusing Souls game, you get to a point where you just reach a boss who is just going to inevitably kill you. And in Demon Souls, it kind of set a tone. It said, you know, this isn't your typical RPG, which was great because it was the first one in that series. I'd imagine this is a sort of homage to Demon Souls, and I'm okay with it. I'm fine. I mean, it panders a little bit, but I mean, the whole Souls-like universe in general, until it kind of paves its own path, is just a way to kind of pander to the Souls fans. But this is fine. That thing was scary, and it murdered the shit out of me. So I'm happy. So we're dropped on a beach, a small little beach, and we get this slight message that tells us that we're playing Zelda and we must find the princess. Which is one of my favorite tropes in video games. Although this game doesn't end up really expounding on that much. I don't know who the princess is. And I kind of totally forgot that we were going to save a princess. But soon enough I go and I find my first sanctuary. And the sanctuary is kind of your bonfire. The place where you rest. And you put this little idol and it makes this satisfying sound. And you rest. And you have your chance to level up. And you see that we need salt to ascend instead of souls. And The salt comes from killing enemies just like anything else, and when you die, you lose your salt. And then we get our first look at what is initially one of the most overwhelming things in this game, which is the skill tree. And the skill tree is massive, but leads to a lot of good things. So we adventure out into the wilderness, and as we go along, we kind of, find some barrels to crush, and a chest or two filled with items that I don't understand, like red shards. But then we go and we start adventuring to kill enemies. And so I went and I killed a few enemies in the first area, and then I went back and I got some good old-fashioned rest at my bonfire. And I got a level. And it was about at this point I started feeling like, oh yeah, I love these games deeply. So I ventured out and I killed a few more enemies, slaughtering them with my beautiful short axe and my shield. And the combat feels really good. It's swift, it's fun, the enemies are varied and have different patterns. And eventually we found our second sanctuary to rest at. And after I rested at the sanctuary, I went out for a bit more adventure, and then I met this guy.
It's amazing how quickly I can be sold on one of these games, just based on the ideas of just one enemy. And I think the Sodden Knight was the perfect first boss fight. I mean, he was fast, he was aggressive, and he made you use kind of all the most basic skills you could possibly have. Blocking, rolling, counterattacking. It is very reminiscent of what makes the combat in Dark Souls so good. That it's so methodical and well thought out. And it took me a while to beat this guy, but you can see, I died a bunch. But eventually, he became a piece of cake.
The Sodden Knight is one of my favorite examples of what makes Souls games great, or Souls-like games great, because they challenge you to be the best you can be with the tools at hand. And the Sodden Knight was really difficult. I mean, I came so close my first time, and he hit me with a lunging attack to kill me while I was drinking a potion. But after a couple tries, I was able to come back, and through just willpower, vanquish him. And it felt great and made me feel right at home in the Souls universe, especially when those beautiful words pop out, you defeated.
The thing about Salt and Sanctuary, though, is it's not just a good Souls game. It's also a really good Metroidvania game. There's a lot of platforming you eventually have to do, especially in the later stages of the game. And there's a lot of abilities you unlock that you're eventually going to be used to discover new areas and ideas. There's a ton of side content. And there's a lot of stuff that in my one playthrough, I didn't even see. And it's wonderful that they were able to do that without making you feel like you had to jump through hoops. Now, as I play through my second time, which I hope to complete, I'm seeing things that I know I could have gone back to last time and didn't. Now, in my first playthrough, I abandoned my axe, and I went with a two-handed sword build. I didn't even use a shield, but I'd imagine there's viability everywhere. Items are very upgradable. And there's a lot of variety in the way you can approach situations. There's magic, there's cleric spells, there's a ton of stuff in here. And that's really one of the things they captured best about the Souls universe, is that there is a variety of ways to approach situations, and that is probably the hardest thing to pull off. Salt and Sanctuary does not fail in many places, but where it fails pretty significantly. The storytelling's bad, even by Dark Souls standards. There's absolutely nothing that I could take away from it at the end. The ending was vague in a way that even Dark Souls would be questioning. I think Miyazaki would look at this and go, what the hell are you talking about? And if Miyazaki looks at you and asks you, what the hell are you talking about, you have a problem on your hands. So the environment doesn't really do a good job of telling the story. But not only that, some of the bosses are a little bit easy. I mean, you're going to run into bosses that you can essentially just hit until they die, without much resistance at all. But where it falls short doesn't matter so much, because the redeeming qualities of it are so profound that I really was able to overlook everything I saw. Even the fact that they play the same musical track for all but one boss. I mean, I understand, this is an indie team, you couldn't get an orchestra, but you probably could have come up with more than one song to show me I was entering a boss fight. Turns out in the end, I really, really loved Salt and Sanctuary. I think it not only does the Dark Souls formula really well, but it kind of puts its own twist on it. And we're in that sweet spot stage of the Souls-like, where even just putting it into a 2D environment is interesting enough to make it work. The question is, where do Souls-like games go from here? But that does not matter for Salt and Sanctuary. As one of the first Souls-likes, I think it's the second one I played, other than Dark Mouse, which was also really good. This one is a significant step forward. It takes the Souls-like genre in a new direction, and even proves that the Souls games on their own, as their own genre, kind of stand up, and it's interesting in this day and age that somebody could even come up with a new genre. It's really fantastic. I couldn't recommend Salt and Sanctuary enough. It may even be the perfect entry point for people who couldn't get into the Souls games, because it's much easier, I think, to comprehend it on a 2D plane than anything else. It definitely has some minor shortcomings, but I was able to overlook them. And when I did, I think I'm seeing my favorite game of the year so far up through March. So until Dark Souls 3 comes out, let's hope it's good. We will be enjoying Salt and Sanctuary, hopefully, for the next few weeks as us Americans wait for our copies of Dark Souls 3.
Baasvik reviews some video games for your pleasure. Baasvik reviews some games for your pleasure. Oh,